Good late Tuesday, early Wednesday meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving a look at that map here across the region. You do see some scattered shower action toward the Gulf of Mexico, even a little bit of lighting Gulf of America there as we're tracking things, and you can kind of see those temperatures here toward those mid 70s, 75 toward Tallahassee, 75 around Albany, 75 Gainesville there, a little warmer around Ocala, 77. That's pretty warm here, really for this time of year as we're looking at things at this time of night, I mean, even on the warmest night, 77, 1, 2 in the morning, it's still kind of steamy out there. We're at 72 here east of Stark in a more rural area, but kind of just giving you a look at things here on what's going on. We have that cloud cover around and towards some of those areas, some of those showers here as we're looking. And just have to be mindful here that we do have a chance for some storms here, even on the 4th of July. And some of that could really be because of the tropics here. An area of interest that we're watching. We're not turning logo red, though we are in our 4th of July type and just, flag type of logo here. We use that for like Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and the like here, as long as there's not a major threat of serious weather. We may have to turn it red if we get more confidence in a tropical system evolving toward our area, but there's just not enough confidence in something right now, and if it were to develop even, it really wouldn't be overly impactful in terms of, let's just say, like a big impact, but it would disrupt outdoor activities, and probably the accent would still do that anyway here, even if we don't have it become a named system. I know West Central Florida might get a little bit worse than us around Tampa and the like, but we just have to be kind of mindful here of the impacts. Even if it's a named system or not, it doesn't necessarily matter a whole bunch here as we're looking at things. I know as we kind of broaden the view, I do want to see a more national look here at things. You see some flash flood warnings in parts of western North Carolina. We have one in toward Texas, another one out toward California. You see a marginal risk of severe weather for parts of Nevada there, parts of Utah, and Arizona, for instance. And then as we get into toward areas there of Idaho, Montana, Oregon there, you kind of get the idea. And then up toward parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, another marginal risk. These are for wind and or hail as you're kind of looking at things. The first was the hail, the second the wind there. On the screen you see a system out in the Pacific. There's a major hurricane been following out that way, Hurricane Flossie, but that's not a storyline toward our area by any stretch of the imagination. But we could end up getting Chantal to develop here toward our local area. But if it got that name, this system that, the area that we're watching, trying to spin up along a boundary here, it'd be a very weak system here overall, would seem. But you still have to be mindful of a weak tropical storm, probably the worst case scenario. And in that worst case, it could dump a lot of rain. There could be some flash flood warnings, especially down toward Tampa. And, it's about really disrupting those holiday plans. Now, we are still, there's still some pretty big disparities in the model guidance. So, there's always a chance things could be slightly worse than what I'm saying, or really they're not that big of a deal at all. There's a chance on Saturday we could kind of get the wind giving us some drier air here as we're seeing the system kind of move away from our area to some degree. It may kind of meander back up and bring more moisture in like on Sunday, but that's just what some of the guidance is indicating here at this point in time. So we have that general thunderstorm risk here toward our local area now. Wednesday, you have that a lot this time of year. You can get some road warnings. It's definitely a possibility. Just remain alert here. It's summertime. Whenever thunder roars go indoors, and make sure you're not outside there for too long when there's that peak heating of the day, because otherwise you could suffer from dehydration and or heat stroke. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water. That applies to like those 4th of July festivities on Friday. I was looking at some of the heat index values. So in over 100 in some of the model guidance here, it could be kind of steamy, when we're not getting the rain and or cloud cover around as much, because it could be a little more humid around. And, even the air temperature could be a bit warmer on Friday when we're not, and where we're not getting the worst of the rain and maybe some storms. So just got to be kind of mindful of that here as we're looking at things. And there's a lot of outdoor activities, about as many as you ever have, here across the area, or like Friday especially, and even towards Saturday there. as well. And Friday's the 4th of July here. Independence Day coming on up. Happy Independence Day. We just hope the weather, kind of holds out. In some spots it will, probably. Other spots it won't. It definitely won't. Just kind of is too up in the air right now to know for sure where, but we'll just continue to monitor the situation here. I'll continue to give you guys the updates here on what's going on. Let me go ahead and just keep watching things, keep tracking things with our graphical display now. I know the latest just came in from the Hurricane Center in Miami. I updated this graphic here before we came on. The 7-day cyclone formation probability, 40%. It's gone up steadily. It was at 20% on Sunday, and now at 40%. Now, that doesn't mean, that it'd be that big of a deal even. And it could also, I put the number to the east of Florida because there's a distinct chance some of the model guidance indicated it could develop east of Florida, east of Georgia here, really. And it could kind of swing back. We'll see. But, that's something to kind of watch too. This doesn't necessarily mean that it'll develop in the Gulf and come toward, Tampa as an actual concise cyclone or subtropical cyclone at that point in time, earlier on in the frame, here in time frame. But I know, you see Cedar Key in here. Again, this is just where the spin would be. I mean, we'd have impact outside of this. And again, it may not really coalesce into something until after it gets past the state, off toward the East Coast. I would think that almost to be based on what I've seen in the models a little more likely, but some of the models are indicating, regardless of when it develops or if it develops, Tampa could get some, enhanced rainfall here more so than other parts of the state. But we'll continue to watch. I know you stay prepared. I know we've had Andrea here and Barry, both of those since our last formal update. We've had, our severe updates here as warranted and posting about things here as warranted. But some hurricane supplies, now tax-free throughout the year in Florida. That's something new now. So hurricane prep supplies now tax-free throughout the year in Florida. See Andrea and Barry off the list. If we get, something to develop around here, more than likely it becomes Chantal if it became, strong enough with 39 mile-an-hour plus sustained winds. Now, if it didn't, then another storm, instead, another system would take the name of Chantal later on in toward the season. You see Dexter, Aaron, the next names on the list after that. So just be prepared. Andrea, that was nothing really. It was way out in the Atlantic. Barry, it did hit Mexico as a tropical depression. But they've had worse on the Pacific side here this season for sure. Eric was a big impact on the Pacific side. As we go ahead and look here, tropical climatology, and this is about the Atlantic Basin. This slide of names I was showing you. Peak season here, really later August to early October. But we've had impacts before in July. We had Beryl hit Texas right after the 4th of July last year. So just got to always be prepared. I know it was a very violent hurricane further down in the Caribbean, but still a hurricane hitting Texas. That was a big deal. We are not at all, I have not seen really any guidance at all present, the area we're watching, the water area, come close to hurricane strength here. So that is very unlikely. I mean, I can't ever say zero in the meteorology world, but that's very unlikely. If anything, we don't get this to become Chantal, and in some other area, who knows, develops eventually, and that, that could become a hurricane, but who knows? I mean, I'm just kind of talking here with that at this point. That could be, next week, or that could be next month. But you can see August to October here, that's when the focus is, but you just got to always remain prepared. We've got through a month of it already without any local impacts, but we still have 5 months to go here. July, August, September, October, November. So just stay prepared. Now you see our rainfall forecast here, that Weather Prediction Center. Look at things. Tampa, this is showing here on average around 5 inches of rain. Some of that, a 5-inch average starts to inch toward like Citrus Levy counties, give or take. But you see around like that West Coast region there, Pinellas County in there, Hillsborough, Pasco. You kind of see, get the idea that they could have more rain in other places here. Some of that could be on the 4th of July and disrupting outdoor plans and those fireworks and the like. I know you can go to clutter.com/radar for interactive look at things, whether on the air or not. We'll be watching things on the 4th of July very carefully, obviously. You see toward the local area here around Stark, Gainesville, You can kind of see Ocala here. It starts to inch up as we get further south. Further north, not quite as much here in our coverage zone, especially southwest Georgia, like Albany, but you can see there west central is really a little bit of southwest and a little bit of north central Florida. You have that heavier rainfall on average around 5 inches. Like Stark is right there around an inch and a quarter, inch and a half on average there, give or take, for the next 7 days. So that's not overwhelming, but it's still noteworthy, and you just gotta be prepared because if most of that falls on the 4th of July and on that or that Saturday, that could be really, really disruptive to the outdoor plans here that we have locally. You just gotta be really careful. I know you have that Florida drought monitor here that look at things. We have a severe drought as of last week still toward Marion County. So, we need the rain. We don't want it at the times, the inopportune times. But we do need that precip. We've seen a lot of that red go away downstate, though. Some of that still remaining in Palm Beach County. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, that's an extreme drought there. The severe drought as we're looking toward areas like Citrus County and the like, as we're looking toward west central Florida, some there. But as we go ahead and kind of look at things, you can see that coverage area as we kind of give you guys the very latest on exactly what is going on here in the grand scheme of things. You can see we're just continuing to give you guys the very latest, obviously, on what's going on across our 62 counties. Very, very important to me. We're on all the different platforms there. Facebook, Twitter /X, YouTube, Twitch, SierraClub.com has all those different links and that radar available. I know tornado warning storms whenever they move through. We're always on for any of the 62 counties. So be very mindful of that. We've been doing that for over 5 years here, folks. I mean, going on 6 years later on, believe it or not, here in 2025. So I just, continuing to keep you guys safe, continuing to keep you guys informed here on the weather scenario. It's so, so important here as we're kind of looking at things, as we're kind of tracking things. We're just trying to stay on top of everything we can here to keep you guys informed. Let me go ahead and show you right now there's some more information. We want to show you this forecast here for the 4th of July weekend. This is so important here as well as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. I know on Friday here in Stark, the Stark Spangled Splash Bass weekend here, that gets, underway and with a parade there at 9 a.m. This will be weather permitting, as you see here, especially like fireworks and the like. But you can see medium risk of impacts there for that parade around 9 a.m. 80 degrees or so, 45% chance of showers or a storm. Hopefully it didn't happen. And then the gates open at noon there on Friday toward the fairgrounds for the, events Friday, Saturday. I know on Friday there's a high risk of weather impact, unfortunately. High heat index values. If you don't have the storms around, it could be over 100. It's going to be steamy. You got to drink plenty of water. We talk about all this rain accident, but we don't have that around. Don't want the heat, danger to be overlooked by any stretch of the imagination. That is so, so important to take into consideration here. I know there'll be Saturday storms at other points, 65% chance here as we're looking at things. So, and this is for Stark specific and our full forecast, so a little bit different for, a broad view of the 62 counties. But on that Saturday, and this is time specific as well, these events here are 12 to 10 p.m. give or take as we're looking Friday and Saturday. 12 p.m. to this fireworks on Friday, and then on Saturday 12 to like dusk or so. But warm but breezy to windy here. As we're looking, some Saturday storms will still be possible. There's a medium risk of issues from the weather on Saturday, so high risk on Friday, medium on Saturday, and medium for that Friday morning parade. So Friday afternoon, evening, that's when the highest danger would be here for problems. I mean, heat at times, storms at times, it can be a mix. you know, where you go from 1 hour, it's about the heat, and people really having to drink water, to the next hour, we have lightning in the region, you gotta evacuate and get inside a safer structure, you know, here, you know, versus just being outside or in a tent or something like that. So, as we go ahead and see the extended forecast, we're watching the tropics. You know, if it wasn't for all these outdoor plans, it wouldn't even be as big of a deal as it is. I mean, we're going to watch 40% chance of development. We're not turning logo ready yet. If we start to see that number jump up enough for it, you know, being more than likely into water area, some type of name or depressing even, probably turn the logo red. But we're not going to do that yet. We don't want to hype it up, you know, more than they need to. Because, you know, if you have indoor plans, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's at this point, at least, it's in a situation where we really got to be like, you know, stocking up here on water. I mean, it's good to be prepared for the season, as I've alluded to, because there could be other threats that are much more substantial than this. I mean, this might be something you got to secure the outdoor furniture. That could be about the worst, and, you know, may have flooding in some low-lying areas. But we might have to watch out for rip currents, too, towards some of the beaches, kind of depending on how the wind direction's set up and the time frames. You know, some areas will be, you know, higher threat at other points, you know, versus other spots it'll be at a different point and different times. But again, as we're looking here, this isn't something where you just gotta hunker down, but you know, we gotta be careful here. This could always, if the models aren't picking up on this right, could be a little bit worse than what I'm saying, but even then, that'd probably be, you know, a weak tropical storm. I mean, a little worse than what I'm saying. Right now, I'm saying it's probably not going to happen like that. The chances are just under 50% of that happening. So, really, and even then, that chance, you can always make the argument that's just even, that it takes into consideration, it could just be depressing, be TD number 3 or something like that. But tropical depression number 3, and, you know, that's not out of the question. But as we continue to watch, continue to track, I mean, sure, you want to, you know, be watching the situation, but this is not something where we're going to have a hurricane. There's really no chance of that. I can't say that a lot, you know, in the hurricane season, but I feel pretty comfortable this is not going to become a hurricane. But otherwise, there's still enough margin for it. I don't, you know, want to say, you know, just that this is, you know, not going to have any impacts, because it probably will, but they should be mostly minor here. So that's the good news as we're looking here. 70% chance of rain on Wednesday, Thursday. That's, you know, before it would seem to have any type of designation from the Hurricane Center. I know the Hurricane Center, looking at the probabilities here, I hadn't been focusing too much on those 2-day probabilities because, well, you know, we weren't really, you know, thinking about that here. But now it's starting to get close enough where they could start to add some to that. But they're saying near 0% next 48 hours. So that's the good news there. They see rain chances actually go down a little bit. It's weird to have higher when we don't have it, you know, probably coming out of the system. But this, that moisture coming in on 4th of July, still a 60% chance of that could still, you know, and, you know, a little less toward like Tallahassee, more toward the east. That's why we, you know, had 65 for like Stark on the, you know, the breakdown graphic there for the Stark, you know, event there, the, big event taking place here, and events really as we look ahead and toward that timeline. You know, we're just watching things here, obviously, with that Stark Spangled Splash Fast, as we're kind of seeing things here again. You know, you see towards Saturday, 91, it's a little cooler, maybe, so that wind coming on in, maybe a little breezy. I mean, gotta be a little careful if you have rides and stuff. You know, you might get a little blustery. It's gonna be overwhelming, but it might, you know, blow some napkins around. That's definitely something that can happen on Saturday here. You know, blow them around pretty good. You know, might have to hold them down with something if you're at some type of outdoor event as a vendor or something like that. But then on that Sunday here, I chance it inch back up a little bit here. It would look like you see on that Monday here, you see the rain chances. I dropped them back to about 50%, 92, 72, give or take. I mean, we're setting these highs and lows. They're pretty close to average. I mean, this time of year, unless you're, you know, in just a huge heat wave, or if you have a tropical system that's really obvious, like a hurricane, you know, I mean, the heat wave would be higher than this tropical system if it was a really definitive one, like, you know, something that was really causing cloud cover for a while, would be lower, quite a bit lower. But otherwise, that's about what you're going to get for this time of year. Be careful with the lighting, even if you have kind of these, especially in an unorganized tropical system or subtropical system, you can still have storms of lightning in them. So whatever thunder roar's going towards. I mean, you can have lightning and a hurricane too, don't get me wrong. It's just, that's not, we're not focusing on that. You're not going to be out and about in a hurricane like some folks might be, tropical depression or tropical depression. I mean, it could even be. And I think they may not actually, but I think they could, I guess, call it a subtropical depression. I'm not sure how many times I've heard that. I also could get enough confidence that it could develop. The Hurricane Center could call it a potential tropical or subtropical cyclone here. As we look ahead, I'm not 100% sure if they even do them for subtropical cyclones here, the potential tropical cyclone advisories. I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head because some of this stuff's kind of new. Potential tropical cyclone, if they would actually call it a potential subtropical cyclone. That's not something we generally talk about here as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things. So, okay, apparently they do have subtropical depressions, or they did at one point of them looking back in history. That has happened at points. And then, unless that's been changed. Now, the PTC, I'm not sure because I don't think that's happened before. I'm just looking that up real quick here on the fly. That'd be, kind of interesting. Kind of interesting designation. Again, we're just going to continue to give you guys the latest here on the weather situation. Let me go ahead and switch back over one more time to this graphic here. The Star-Spangled Splash Bass here. As we're tracking things. I know you can see there Friday, Saturday, some big events. Hopefully the weather cooperates. It's not a guarantee that it will, but it's also not a guarantee that it won't here. So, my guess is sometimes it'll be okay. Other times will not be okay. And you have to be inside and away from windows, especially inside with the rain. I mean, the away from windows would be more if there's lightning and or, like a severe thunderstorm warning or something. Again, we'll just continue to track things here, continue to monitor the situation. We'll be on here late Thursday with another update, but breaking in if and as warranted in the interim. I appreciate everybody tuning in here and trusting me as you watch on all the different platforms here. It's so important, just to keep it on light to the sky here. Let me see if there are any questions or comments real quick. I don't see any, but I appreciate everybody tuning in and trusting me here. Have a great night, everybody. Stay tuned. Stay safe.